Come on, we've signed another player. Manchester City have signed Nathan Ake. We've got our second transfer confirmed of the summer. We've got another player through to strengthen that 2021 title challenge. And I'm very, very, very excited. Welcome to the club, Nathan Ake. May you prosper in Manchester City's much more delightful shade of blue than your former club Chelsea's, in my obviously very biased opinion. I'm very happy about this. Especially given the proximity to the Ferran Torres transfer. We've got two very good players that will no doubt improve Manchester City squad going forward, and that is literally all that matters. Today we're going to talk about this transfer and why I think personally you should be quite hyped for it. I'm going to try and remain balanced at all points and try and look at the positives and the negatives of this, but largely I think this is definitely a good step in the right direction for Manchester City squad, and it will improve us in the long run, and I'm very excited. I'm genuinely really excited. We're going to start initially. Before we get onto the fee, the start of the play, the positions and the stats, as you can see below, we are going to start initially with the overview and talk a little bit about who Nathan Ake is and all that kind of stuff and what you need to know about him in general. Obviously, he's 25 years old. That is the first thing we can talk about. He's obviously left-footed as well, which is really important. We'll get onto squad status a little bit. We'll discuss that in a little bit more detail. But we've got a left-footed centre-back who's 25 years old, and he's already made 171 appearances professionally. That's an awful lot of appearances for someone who's only 25 years old. He made his debut back in 2012 at Chelsea. He's been around for absolutely ages. He's genuinely got loads of experience, and he's still really young. He's also played in the Champions League for Chelsea. He's had a really enigmatic career already. Obviously played a little bit for Chelsea going around, and then he made a loan to Reading in the Championship before following that loan up with a loan to Watford in the Premier League, where he excelled for Watford. He was very good for Watford on loan. He won their Young Player of the Year as well before getting a loan to Bournemouth, impressing there before signing on a permanent deal where he's been for a further 3 seasons, and he's been very good for Bournemouth, which has also helped him win some Netherlands caps. He's made 13 appearances for the Dutch national side, scoring 2 goals. So he's got experience basically across a whole spectrum of levels. He's been involved in the Championship a little bit. He's been involved in relegation battles. He's been involved at highest level squads with Chelsea. He's played internationally. He's also just essentially a bit of a leader, a very likeable character and very intelligent, which probably brings us to why we're paying this fee that we are. Now, there's no point dressing it up. It's a lot of money. It's been rumoured to be around 40 million-ish. It's definitely a lot of money. I can't deny that. I would have been a lot more comfortable if this was about 10 million less. What I will say largely is that we're in a world now where, I don't know, your Sigurdssons cost 50 million, Harry Maguire cost 90 or 80 or whatever it is. Football is very expensive these days. I will say I think this fee has been essentially contrasted alongside the Ferran Torres fee. I got a feeling we're comfortable paying a little bit more than we probably wanted to for Ake because we got such an incredible deal for Ferran Torres. I think you have to look at those two sides and go 60 million for those two to improve our squad. That's a really good deal. On their own, maybe one's 10 million too cheap and one is maybe 10 million too expensive. But I think largely they had a pot of money for these two players and they were willing to spend that, and they've got that done. And I think it's okay. It isn't ideal. I would say largely the fact that he's homegrown. He's not an overseas player because of his time at Chelsea. He's considered a homegrown player, so that obviously adds an awful lot of money because that's worth its weight in gold for squads. You've got a player who won't essentially impact the Ferran Torres or whoever else we're going at, Koulibaly or someone like that. All these overseas world-class stars, he's not impacting on their squad at all, which is great given the fact that we do need homegrown players. We really need someone who can step into that void, and it's really nice to see someone come in. He's obviously going to be replaced with someone like Otamendi as well, so he fits that profile absolutely perfectly. That will, of course, increase the fee. Now, Bournemouth obviously were relegated, so you're thinking, well, why have we been rid of £40 million for a relegated player? It's of course never that simple. He is Bournemouth's best player, and clubs are pretty rich, even in the Championship. You've got Championship teams spending like £20 million on players these days, so it's not ridiculous to see a player from a relegated club go for around that money. I mean, it feels ridiculous, but we've got to adapt to the world in 2020 where players can go for inordinate amounts of money despite their status. He was obviously a Premier League player with loads of experience, as once again he's played at multiple levels, and he's reliable as well. So I understand that fee to an extent, even though I think maybe it is a little bit pricey. But it's kind of not our money. I do think they budgeted for this. In terms of his style of play, Ake is a very aggressive defender, which I really like. I like defenders who are forthright in what they do and like to get stuck in. I've always been a little bit critical of defenders who seem a little bit passive. Go back to someone like Nastasic, who was a lot of City fans liked because he was cultured on the ball. I always thought he was a bit of a bit of a wimp, if I'm being honest. He didn't like to get stuck in, and Ake does like to get stuck in, for better or for worse. He's very aggressive in the challenge. He's very aggressive when he tries to win the ball, and I really appreciate that. And he's also a little bit of a leader. He's energetic, he's organised, he's intelligent, and that's one of the main aspects of his game, that largely he knows where to be at the right time. Now, of course, people will turn around and go, well, his style of play has helped Bournemouth get relegated, but that's a little bit unfair to say. Many very good players end up part of relegated teams. Look at Andy Robertson over at Liverpool. It's not necessarily their fault. And Ake's style is that of a leader. And he's been lucky to be, I guess, surrounded by players who aren't quite at the same level as him. If basically Bournemouth had a team of players with the quality of Ake, they would be fine. But in terms of his style of play, he does have a really good turn of pace. He's very fast defensively, which allows him to essentially play at a high line, which Manchester City like to do. We are lacking a little bit of pace in general in defence. We've got Laporte, who's got a good turn of pace. After that, sadly, Garcia, as much as I like him, he's a little bit slow. He isn't really that fast off the mark. And Otamendi, milk turns quicker. And Stones isn't much faster than Otamendi either, unfortunately. It's only really Walker who's got pace to really cover for Laporte, alongside Laporte, basically. And we need someone with a little bit more pace. And Ake does have that recovery pace, which is absolutely crucial. And it allows Manchester City to play that high pressing line that they like to do. And it allows him to also make up for any mistakes which he makes, which he doesn't really make very often, which we'll get onto in a little bit. So his style of play is one of aggressive. He likes to be on the ball. He's very comfortable. Technically, he's very comfortable on the ball. He can pass it around. He likes to essentially nip in for tackles, which City really like. And then if he doesn't get the ball, he can have that recovery pace to get back. So he's a really, really intelligent, very skilled player. In terms of his position, now he is a centre-back. He's been playing at centre-back for Bournemouth for a while now. And he's made that left centre-back slot his own. So he will obviously come in as a left centre-back. But what I also like about Ake is he fits the Guardiola profile down to an absolute T. Now we know Guardiola loves players. He absolutely loves players that can play in multiple positions. And this is genuinely what Ake can do. No, he's very versatile. He's played in midfield before as a defensive midfielder. Not often, but he definitely has the 360 vision as someone who can be a midfielder in terms of he's very comfortable on the ball. He turns very quickly. He's very sharp. He's very aware. And he's very comfortable on the ball as well, which makes him a suitable role for someone to do that in a backup. But more likely than that, if he's not going to be playing centre-back, he probably will be playing left-back every now and then. Now, look at what Guardiola did with people like Philipp Lahm and Alaba. Now, I'm not saying he's in that same level, of course, but maybe, just maybe, with a manager like Guardiola, he could unlock that same level of intelligence to his game. Alaba ended up a really versatile player. He can play centre-back now for Bayern, he can play midfield for Austria, and he obviously can play a left-back to a high level. What's to say that Ake doesn't end up a backup left-back to Mendy or something like that, or maybe he becomes this really intelligent, complete left-back who can play that inside kind of thing that Guardiola loves, where you get like a left-backs who go as an inverted kind of midfielder. He could do that. Obviously, he'll probably end up being a centre-back, but he has that versatility, which makes him a great squad addition. Now, stats-wise, this is where it gets very, very interesting, both positive and negative, really. I brought up a few graphics which I'll bring into the video in a bit and put them on screen, and you can make what you want of them. But I'm going to be very honest about this. I'm going to look at some base level stats. He scored 12 goals in 151 league games. That number has gone up the more he's played. He's a goal scoring defender, which is really, really useful, which is great because we don't get players who score a lot of goals defender wise. So it'd be good to have someone who's just good around the box. His reaction times are really good. So going forward aerially, he's very good aerially in terms of he's a good header, and he just has a good reading of the game of where to be to get on the ball in the offensive situation. So fair play to him. Also, interestingly, 0 errors leading to goals. How wonderful is that? 0 errors leading to goals. Which, watching Stones and Otamendi and Kobe so calamitous, that's absolutely wonderful. And this is a broader base stat. He actually played in the 17-18 and 18-19 seasons every single Premier League game. He played 38 Premier League games. He's played 29 this year as well. A couple of minor injuries aside, basically. But he's reliable. He plays an awful lot of football. And given City have players who are absolutely injury prone, it's nice to have someone who's going to be there at all times. He plays an awful lot of football and he's largely fine with it. His stats this season: 29 appearances in the league, 2 goals, 2 assists, 31 tackles, 36 interceptions, 29 blocks, which is 10th in the Premier League, by the way, 62 aerial duels, and 147 clearances. Now, this is where it does get a little bit concerning. Aerially, he's not good. He's not the biggest at all. He's all willing and heart, but he's just not that good in the air. This is a stat, and I've got it on screen now. It's quoted, and I've checked, and it is correct. From a sample of 234 centre-backs across Europe, Europe's top 5 leagues, of a minimum 1,500 minutes played, Ake ranks 220 21st aerially out of 234. We've got basically 2 centre-backs now who rank in the bottom 10 for aerial duel success rate. That's Ake and Garcia. He isn't good at it. Only Ake out of the 31 centre-backs who have played 25 or more games lost more aerial duels than he won. 49.6% of aerial duels he won, which is not that good. Van Dijk, for comparison, and Maguire, 77 and 71% respectively. So he's pretty poor defensively. Which did not defensively, pretty poor aerially, which isn't that good. I will say to counter that, Manchester City don't have a lot of aerial defending to do, so maybe, just maybe, the quality of the aerial challenges he has to make a little bit lower, because teams get a little bit more frantic against us and just whip balls into the area. So it isn't a best stat, but we'll get on to some more stats here. There's a graphic on screen right now alongside me. As you can see, compared to, I don't know who chose these people, but Pau Torres, Upamecano, Maguire, Lindelof, Ake and Konate there. Some areas Ake is better than others. He's pretty good at shots per goal, which is interesting. One thing he's pretty good at as well, he doesn't give away fouls, as you can see there. Only 0.32 fouls per 90, which is one of the best, was the best out of all those. And also, his fouls to successful tackle ratio is 0.29. He's the best out of all those too. His aerial duels 1 per 90 is lower than Maguire by some way, 2.23. Better than Konate and better than Pau Torres, but largely is pretty low. It's not that high, but it's not the worst by any stretch of the imagination. He's very good in terms of not giving the ball away. Dispossessed per 90, only 0.18 dispossessions per game, which is really good. And kind of up there with Lindelof and Maguire. Maguire's surprisingly good at that point, but much better than some others as well. And he's really good as well at assists per 90, interestingly. He's not the best in some of these, but largely he shows that his game is very much based on the ground. In terms of duels, he's very good with that kind of thing. Not so good in the air, but pretty good on the ground and good on the ball overall. So there we have it. We've got a full range of stats there for you. Not good in the air, good on the ball, good defensively, and pretty good at not giving fouls away, and 0 mistakes to errors that led to goal, which is pretty balanced. And I think we know what we're getting in terms of his limitations. In terms of his squad status, finally, now I think we've got to basically look at what we're getting from him in general. He's obviously not going to be a first-choice starter. He's going to play alongside whoever is playing at right centre-back if Laporte is not there. Laporte is clearly going to be our first-choice left centre-back, and Ake will come in as a regular squad member who will no doubt play an awful lot of football. We've got to bear in mind that next season, Manchester City are going to be playing a shit ton of games in a very short period of time. The season is compressed. There's going to be changes constantly, and there could be injuries. And this time, we've got someone who's fast, who can step into that left centre-back slot and actually pass with the left foot. We know the balance is really important. He will only just be a squad player. Maybe he'll be a backup left-back. Maybe he'll be a backup centre-back. This is a lot of money for a backup, admittedly. But having him in the squad with that much experience already, that much versatility, will actually be useful. Don't expect him to jump straight into the first team. Maybe I'm wrong. Maybe he'll allow us to play free at the back. He can play in the centre or left centre-back with Laporte, one of the two, and someone can play over on the right. I suspect we'll see him play on right centre-back very often. Him and Laporte probably will rarely play together unless we're playing free at the back. But I'm fine with that. That's totally fine. We're getting someone who's going to be a squad option, and once again, it goes back to that money budget balance with him and Torres together. And I think overall, we've got a pretty good deal. Guys, I think this guy could be very useful for us. I made a video about 8 reasons why Manchester City are signing. Okay, go watch it right here. I'm really excited about this, and I think he's going to be very useful. I think he'd be underrated, if anything. Yes, he has some flaws, but largely he brings an awful lot of good to this club, and I've got no doubt he's going to be a better bet for us than Otamendi and Stones, who I've totally lost trust in, unfortunately. Let me know what you make of it. We've got another man. The summer rejig carries on, progressing forward. We've got Ake after Ferran Torres. I'm very excited. Go watch that video as I just mentioned here. Go watch the Ferran Torres video as well. Subscribe if you're new to this channel. Let me know what you make of this signing. I've tried to be brutally honest, but I think largely it'll be a good signing. Guys, subscribe, like, comment, and we've got a man.